We'll do a review on Likkutei Sichos in Chelek of Zion, volume 27. This is the first Sicha for the Parsha of Tazria. It's basically a Rashi Sichos. We'll learn this in memory and Leilu Nishmas of Rav Levi Yitzchok ben Rabbi Chaim Tzvi, a dedicated shliach of the Rebbe, who was suddenly taken away, and we're learning it to benefit his neshama. Tehei neshamos yitzur b'tzir achayim. Let's just review a little bit the Sikh of Tazria, just to review a little bit the laws. The Torah talks about over here when a woman gives birth. So automatically, the pasuk says, if she gives birth to a male, she becomes tummy for 7 days. If she, and after the 7 days, for 33 days, she still cannot eat truma, and has to go to the mikveh, and then at the end of 33 days, she can eat truma. But then she has to wait till the next day, and when she brings the carbon, at that point, she becomes fully tahir. This is going to be the discussion over here, exactly what happens in between the times. What happens after 7 days? We say that she can't eat. She's sort of tamei. Then after, because she can't eat truma, after 33 days are up, then she already could eat truma. It goes to the mikveh, could eat truma, but still cannot go into the Beis Hamikdash and not eat kodesh, holy, the holy step up. That you have to wait for the carbon. In other words, this is what is called known as a mechusar kippurim. She is already gone to the mikveh. She's already basically tahir, but she hasn't yet brought the carbon. That's a mechusar kippurim. I just mentioned by the boy, it's 7 days and 33 days. By a girl, it's 14 days and 66 days. That's the difference. 7 and 33, and 8 and 14 and 66. So then we have the Sikh is going to discuss and show that there's a difference between the Rambam and the Gemara, and Rashi has a third line of the way that he explains it. In the Gemara, it basically seems that there is a level of tumah that remains. In this case, we're talking about the tumah of Yeledes, of birth. That tumah remains with the woman until the complete, when she get rid of the tumah to the extent that she can also eat kodesh. That only takes place after she brings the korban. But before that, she's still a little bit tummy. That's the way the Gemara says, and that's the way the opinion of the Gemara, and that's in the pastures. But the Rambam, actually, the Rebbe will show. Uh, he says that no, she becomes after she becomes tahir as soon as she goes to the mikveh, uh, completely tahir. The only thing is there is still an obstacle for her to eat kodesh. The Torah doesn't want her to eat the kodesh until she's actually brought the korban. But it's not that she's still tomei. The tomei finished. That's what Rambam learns. And there's a nafkamina also la'aloch, as the Rebbe will point out. Rashi has a third view. According to Rashi, she's only kruya tomei. She's not actually after 7 days by a male and after 14 days by a female, by Nikeva. Over there, she's already tahir, the Tara, and that's why the days in between are called Yemei Toihar. They are days of cleanliness. And it is just a hemshech of this that she's still kruya. It's not tome, but she's still kruya tameya. And the Rebbe proves this from the Loshen Haposik, why Rashi says that. Also, the Rebbe will explain um, what kind of a chatos? What did the Yoledes do? Rashi doesn't say anywhere. The Gemara says that the a woman giving birth has to bring a chatos because she sort of makes a vow in the pain of child giving birth that she'll never have children, so she has to make a chatos for that vow. But Rashi doesn't bring down that explanation. So why is there? And the Rebbe associates that because it's connected to the Chet Tzadas. But we'll go step by step. In Pasik B'Soif Parshas Yeledes. So in the Pasik, in the end of the portion, that's the first section of Tazria, is the portion of Yeledes. So the Pasik ends this parsha with V'chiper Aloha Koyin, and the Koyin will be mechaper on her, and then V'Tahira, and then she'll become clean. So let him the Gemara. So since the pasuk says over here, she will become clean after the korban. So meaning that till she brings the korban, so she actually brings, which is the next day after the 33 or the 66 days for a zohar and a keva. That means up till that time she's still tummy. Let him the Gemara v'tahara miklal shehit meya. That means that before the korban is brought, on the next day after the completion of the 33 or 66 days, that she only becomes clean after she brings the korban. So what does the Gemara see from that? That somebody who lacks their atonement, which means the korban is the atonement. They just, the time passed, they went to the mikveh, they don't have the atonement. That's a mechusar kippurim. Nor them was toval ve'olo. After he or she immersed and they went up from the mikveh, un harif shimshoy, and the sun has set, so there's a complete 33 days, a complete 66 days. They went to the mikveh, and then the days of harif shemesh. Eider erot gebracht kaparosoi, before he brought the kapara, the korbanos that he has to bring the atonement, is tomei lekabe kamedinim. So as for several dinim, he's tomei. Truma, we learned in the pasuk that after 33, that she cannot eat truma. So once the days are over, the 33, 6 days, she can eat truma. But there is for several areas in which she remains still tomei until she actually brings the korban. And what are the things? It brings down three things what she still remains tomei. Aleph, as is noch do auf ihm der Isur von Bechol Kodesh leisiga goimer achilas kochim. It still remains on the person that was tomei and he's a mechusar kippurim. The example is the woman over here, but there could be other cases in which the man is tomei, is a mechusar kippurim, and he needs to bring this kapara for the atonement ba'azav. In other cases, so the Isur of Bechol Kodesh Leisiga that we say, which really interpreted as Achilas Kochim, which means the eating of the Kochim, that is Asur, while the person has not yet brought the korban, can't eat Kochim, still Tomei from the previous Tumah. Base, so that remains as far as kochim goes, remains. Truma, okay, but kochim, no. Number two, what is no before kapore? Shimesh bebeis hamikdash is a chayiv misa. A kohen who serves in the beis hamikdash while he is not, he's at full yom, he's a mechusar kippurim. He already the days is up, but he didn't bring the kapora. He's still chayiv misa because the pasuk said he served as a tomei. While tomei sheshimish b'misa, a person who is tomei who serves in the Beis Hamikdash, he gets the death penalty because he is still considered to be tomei from the tuma until he brings the kapora. That's the Rambam. That's the Gemara's view. Gimel and number three, kapurim pasel de avodah. Being lacking still the kapora, he didn't bring the korban, he would disqualify. If he did any avodah, that avodah is possible because it was done by Mechusar Kippurim. What does this all mean? This all means that he is still somewhat Tomeh to a certain level, for certain degrees. For Kodesh, for Shemesh Bebeis Hamikdash, and this while he is still Tomeh. However, the Rambam says, no, he's not Tomei, but he can't do that because the Torah wants him to bring a korban, but he's not going to remain Tomei, even though he hadn't brought the korban yet. Rambam in Sefer Hayad bringt the Droshi in zwei Erter. He brings this expounding about Mechusar Kippurim, uh, the status. He brings it in two places. Aleph, he brings it Lagabe Mechusar Kippurim, Sha'ovad Azabedos Pesula. This number three that I brought down, that if somebody, a kohen who was lacking the kapore, he went and he served before he brought the korbanos to be fully the completeness of his tare, that Rambam brings down if he serves in the Beis Hamikdash as avedos psula. That's one place where the Rambam brings it down, and Beis the Rambam also brings it down. Legabe dem isur knisa lemikdash, that there is a prohibition with regards to the prohibition of entering into the Mikdash, Me'ezras Yisrael Lifnim, which goes inside of the courtyard, which is designed for the Yidden. Beyond that and inside that, the Rambam brings down, a Mechusar Kippurim is not allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash. But the Rambam uses a different language. He says, since the Pasuk says, V'tohara, V'tohera, the Gemara says that she's still Tomei, the Gemara says. Because the Gemara says the Lashon, Miklal Shitmeya. That means that the woman before the kapore that comes the next day, she is Tomei. But the Rambam changes the Lashon, doesn't say Tomei. It says V'torah Miklal Shadain Lo Nigmar or Gomrot Haros. So from this we can learn that it has not concluded yet the Tahara, which means he doesn't say she's still Tomei. He says that the Tahara has a two-step process. She became Toher, but there's another Tahara that will be gained, a completeness of Tahara, which is through the Korbanos. From Loshna Rambam is moving. So we understand from the Rambam's language, as the Chesorim from Mechusar Kippurim, that the problem, the lacking, what's the problem when a person doesn't have yet the kapore as far as his being toher, is nit azoy machmas dem chiyuv from tuma. It's not so much because there is an obligation of tuma that he enters into the Beis Hamikdash or he does avodah while he's tomei. Kloimar. So that means to say, choch as durch dem was toval und herif shamshei. So what this would mean that he still remains a little bit tomei. That even though as the fact that he goes to the mikveh and the sun sets is a geworen toher, is he already that made him toher lekamo in yonim for various different koilel oich achilas truma, which would include eating truma. He can eat truma. And Mechusar Kippurim can eat truma, even though he didn't bring the korban yet. But as long as he went to the mikveh and the had of yom and the sunset, then he's already okay to eat truma. So that would mean is abalin and kodesh migdash. But then you would say, but as far as going into eating kachim or going into the migdash, he's still tamei. No, but that's not what's real. That's according to the Gemara. And the far is that osur bekodesh lekonis lemigdash, and that's why he's prohibited to go into the kodesh and enter the migdash. Maybe even more the Gemara, but the Rambam doesn't mean, as the Rebbe is explaining now, that there is tuma for various levels. So one level of tuma has been removed with the going to the mikveh and the sunset. There's still a level of tuma left over for what we need a korban. No, the Rambam doesn't say that he's tummy. The Rambam says lo nigmara kaperosei, nor does his mitzad lo nigmara tarosa, nor does his mitzad der shlila. It's not because there's an active tuma here. It's because there is a missing something. There is a negative here that is chisarim b'tara. We're lacking tara. By less spelled by im the tara gemara was verteugetan durch den korban. It's lacking over here the tara, as the Rambam said. It hasn't been completed. The korban completes it. It accomplishes through the korban, completes the tara. There's no complete tara here, but not that there is tum over here. Und wie der Rambam sagt, betchilas ingen beferish. The Rambam says so in the beginning of the idea very clearly. He says it's very specific. V'lama nikru mechusrei kapora. Why do we call them lacking atonement? Shekol echad mehen, each one of these mechusrei kapora. Afa pisha tohar mitum osri, even though he has become clean from the tuma. V'toval and immersed himself ahead of Shimsha and the sunset. Adayinu chaser, he's still missing. There's still something missing. The tara has not been completed in order to eat the kochim. Till he brings the korban. So it's a problem of not complete, not so much positive. There is tuma there, but their problem is that there has not yet been a full tahara, complete tahara. Before he brings his atonement, he's prohibited to eat kochim. As explained in the laws of Psula Magdoshim. Das heißt, so what it means is that Isur is not der Farvos is noch Tomei. The Isur is not because he is still Tomei, nor weil is Choser b'Tarosei, they're still missing, there's a lacking in the purity. That doesn't mean, that doesn't add up to say, oh, he's lacking in the cleanliness means that he's still Tomei. No. According to the Rambam, he's not Tomei anymore. But in order to be able to eat kochim, you have to have a full tahara. There's no full tahara there. It's also evident, you see, where the Rambam was benegeya dem isur lekonesh lemigdash. Where does the Rambam learn the prohibition to go into the migdash? It's not because he's Tomei. Where does the Rambam learn it? Leren tesab the Gemara. So when you learn in the Gemara says, "Von oid tumasei boy." The tuma is still there by him. That is before bringing the korban. So in the Gemara, how do we know mechusar kapore is also to go into the mikdash because he's still tamei, because we learn from the pasuk oy tumasei boy. L'rabba is mechusure kapora. That comes to include those who are lacking kapora, even though they went to the mikveh and the time is up, but they still didn't bring the korban. The Rambam overlearned this of Kinal, but the Rambam learns it, I said before, from pasuk v'toheira miklal shadain legomra taros. He learns it from the pasuk. Since the pasuk says v'toheira, meaning that now there's a complete tahara, but up till here the tahara has not been completed, which means it's not tuma over there. It's not tuma; it's just missing in what makes it tummy. Now, when I argue, this seems like to be semantics over here. So what's the difference exactly in not being fully toher and then saying tomei? There makes a big deal in halacha would make a difference. What is the punishment for a mechusar kippurim that a mechusar kippurim that eats kodesh or goes into the Beis Hamikdash? Does he get the punishment of Misa? Is he Mishamesh Betuma? According to the Raivat will bring from the Gemara, he says, he'd be Chayiv Misa. Misa b'dei shamayim, but l'chayiv misa. Why? Because he's still tummy. But the Rambam paskins no. The Rambam paskins there is no chiv misa. Why? Because the Rambam doesn't consider a mechuser kapora serving betuma. He's lacking his kapora, but he's not tummy. It's a difference in actually halacha. Vibal the Rambam learned as amichuser kippurim is nitome. Since the Rambam learns that one who's lacking kapara is not really tomei. As is mer nervous lo nigmaratarose that his purity, the process of his purity has not been completed, but he's not tomei. The Riber Paskin the Rambam as a mechuser kippurim sheichel kodesh that if a mechuser kippurim will eat kodesh or shimesh or he will serve in the Beis Hamikdash while he's tomei. While he's a mechusar kippurim, is nit chayiv misa or koris, wouldn't be chayiv misa or koris, depending which Echel Kodesh are entering into the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because he's not Tomei. So mechusar kippurim, according to the Rambam, is not Tomei. He's just lacking. He didn't complete his kapara. Mashenkin, that Iva disagrees with the Rambam. Halt as a mechusar kippurim is chayiv misa. That if you're lacking the kapore, you'll be chayiv misa. The chamisa b'dei shamayim. Wer is masige from Rambam as he challenges the Rambam. V'ho amrinon b'makis. He says, but didn't we say in the Gemara Makis oit tumosei boy lerabes b'chuser kapurim that oit tumosei boy is the Rabbi Mechusar Kapore. So we see that he's still Tomei, Mamish Tomei. But we said before that the Rambam brings a different pasuk before the Rebbe pointed out. But he brings another Raya derived against the Rambam. The Torah says, V'tohera, she will become clean. That's written by the Yoledes. And Miklal, so he uses the same argument the way as we said in the Gemara, the ad hashto tmei, that till now she was tummy, because the Torah uses the lashon the tahera, like the Gemara that we quoted in the beginning. So how could the Rambam say that there's no misa over there? Mechusar kippurim is tamei, and it's just like a tamei. But there is misa, there is kodesh over there. V'amrina b'zvachim, another thing we say in the Gemara zvachim, mechusar kippurim dezov kizov tamei, that a zov who doesn't have yet the kapora after going through the process of becoming tohir and going to the mikveh, becoming tohir, but he didn't bring the korbanos. The Gemara says that he's kizav dami, that he's considered like a zav. And then it brings down the hara here that from the Kesef Mishnah that he holds like the other Mandomer, but this is just a rivet argument against the Rambam. With the Sefta, the Zochim, Meine, Oisei, Moisom, Shabimisa. But further he says in the Tesefta, in Gemara Zvachim, he counts Mechusar Kippurim with those that get Misa. And the Rambam is a different gears over there. Okay, they're having that notes. But we're not here to defend the Rambam right now from the question of the Ravid, just to point out that the Ravid considers the Mechusar Kippurim to be Mamish Tameh from all these places that the Ravid learns. But the Rambam says only is Leinik Mara Kaparose, that it needs to complete the Kapar, but it's not on Tameh anymore. That's why there's no Misa according to the Rambam. From the Ravid learns that they get it from Mechusar Kippurim is, what is the definition of lacking Kippurim is, as biz me bring the Kapore, that until you bring the kapore from the korbanis, which is the kapore, is noch verblieben from the frier the ketume, still remain the previous tume. You're still tume from before. You're eating truma, but that's partially, but there's still tume left over. Es ist bloß nifke geworden, der Chelek Atuma. It only expired, or it was taken away, the portion of Tuma was what Ma'akev given Achilas Truma. Only that part of Truma that prevented eating Truma. But the actual Tuma from before remains, and therefore he can't eat kachim, and if he should serve or eat kachim, he'd be chayiv misa. That's the two opinions of the Rambam and the Ravid. But Rashi says something different. Rashi doesn't say, like the Ravid, that lenigmara kaperose. Rashi says that up till now is called tumah. Euch Rashi bepirush al Torah bringt die drosha auf v'toharo mimkor dameh. As we'll see soon, Rashi quotes it on the pasuk before the last, and the Gemara on the last pasuk by v'toharo mimkor dameh. The Rebbe will note all this and explain the Rashi this way. But aber is meshane fuloshna Gemara. Rashi changes like Gemara. Aber nicht with the Rambam, but he doesn't use the Rambam. It changes. He doesn't say like the Gemara that she's still Tomei. With the Rambam, with Torah, since it says she will become Toher. Miklal, that from that we derive Sha'at Khan, he Kruyat Meya, that up till here, she's not Toher. She's called Tameya. Rashi doesn't say Sha'at Khan Tameya. Rashi says Sha'at Khan Ikruya Tameya, called Tameya. Doesn't also say like the Rambam Nigra Kaparose. So, those was Rashi zokt nit kilishoin hagemore miklal shitmeya. The Rebbe is going to explain now. Rashi does not accept that she is Tomei till then. Why? The reason Rashi doesn't say like the Gemara's language, miklal shitmeya, she's Toher now, that means that she was Tomei before. Rashi doesn't say that. Why? Yes, Shloimar, we have an answer to that. The Rebbe said we can say like this. Von seinem friedlichen Pirush of the Werter, Yemei Tara. The Pasuk said before that the Shishim Yom, Shloshim Yom, the 33 days and the 66 days, Teishev Bidmei Tahara. She will sit, there will be Tahara days. So, since they called it Yemei Tahara, Yemei Tohar Shalom, Rashi teaches means the day that she is Tohar. Meaning that as soon as the week is over, as soon as the 2 weeks is over, you start days of Tahara. In those days, even if she sees Dam, she will not become Tomei. That's not considered Dam. Neither she won't become Tomei. For 66 days by the girl and 33 days by the boy. Those are called the Yemei Tara. But Rashi teaches Yemei Tara, Yemei Toihar Shalom, her clean days. It doesn't qualify it that Yemei Toihar, that she's allowed to be with her husband during those times. It just says Yemei Toihar Shalom. That means it's totally Torah. So we can't say it's only to the extent that at that time she doesn't have to separate from her husband. It's Yemei Toihar, it means in a general way. Vibal Rashi zokt stam, since Rashi gives it in a general way. Yemei Toihar, unit Yemei Toihar, it doesn't say clean days by her husband, is muchach, so this is evident. As the text seinen ganzen Yemei Toihar, that these days are entirely days of clean, b'shleimus shenigmaru. They're completed. They're complete days of Tahara. We don't need, there's no more leftover Tuma for anything else, like the Gemara says that now she becomes Tahara. So how could the Pasuk say now, Ad Melisi Meitaro, and those was the Pasuk is Mazir. So why is the Pasuk telling us if she's completely tired? Why can't she go into the Mikdash? Why is the Pasuk say is Mazir warns b'chol kodesh l'siga v'la Mikdash l'sovei, not to touch kodesh and not to enter into the Mikdash ad imaleis mei tahara, until the days of cleanness are filled? Is das machmas azaitikir sibe, something a side reason, where Rashi explains according to Rashi's side reason as einen nito miluyim. It has to be Melois Yemei Torah. There has to be filling the days of Tahara. B'chol kodesh le'sigda v'amigdash le'savoi, until the Meitara fill. How does Meitara? So livelcha zitornit ondriren b'chol kodesh nitarankum b'migdash, because of which she's not allowed to touch kodesh and not allowed to come, because of days of Tara haven't filled, not because she is not uh, tired. The Tara is complete, but it has to wait till the days of cleanliness as are filled. So that's why Rashi doesn't want to say that she's Tomei, because she's not Tomei. Because Rashi says you may toyar. Kumtois. As loit Rashi pshutish mikra, kon Rashi pshutish mikra. Not only after the 33 days or the 66 days when she goes to the mikveh and Harav Shemesh, and we're only Mechusar Kippurim. That's where she becomes Toher. She actually becomes Toher as soon after the 7 days or as soon after the 14 days for a boy or a girl. She becomes immediate though, because the you made Torah, because we're saying it's not for being with her husband. It's a Tara Rashi learns, which means she's completely Torah. So according to Rashi, Pshuta Shemikro is the Tumas Leida Nifka Geworden. The Tumas of birth has been taken away, gleich, expired, gleich, noch design Idal Yomim, immediately after the 7 or 14 days. Balachas come, how much more so, noch the Lamed Gimel Yom, when she has the Yemei Tara fill 33 days or 66 days, Eider sie bringt them korban. Before she brings the korban, she is fully Torah. She's already been Torah since after the 7 after 14 days. High time is move on for was she's nechaych zu sagen auf dem Loschen. That's why from this it's understood for that reason. We can't say like the Gemara says, Rashi can't say, the Loschen she'it meya, that now she's Toher. The Tohera means that before she was Tomei. And the Rebbe uh, is going to say another diuk in Loshan Rashi that Rashi mentioned before, which also fits in with this thing over here, with the Rebbe's contending over here that the Yemei Toihar means that she's already Toir after 7 days and after 14 days. And this whole period of 33 days or 66 days, that's sort of a one long day of Tahara, but she has to wait for the Hariv Shemesh, as Rashi we're going to quote now. But Rashi adds, just like she has to wait for the korban, she has to wait for the 33 days and the 66 days, even though she's Tahir by the 7th day or the 14th day. She still has to wait the 33 and 66 days, because just like the kapora, she has to wait for the kapora for kodesh. Why does Rashi have to bring down just like kapora kodesh to explain the 33 days that she can't eat the truma till the 33 and 60 days that are up? Because that's the whole point. That Rashi wants to show you. That's the Rebbe explains it. Rashi wants to show you that the Tare complete begins as soon as the 7 days are over, as soon as the 14 days are over. The fact that you have to wait, that's not Tare day. Those is just to fulfill, to make the complete of the time before she can eat the Truma. Apizei is moving Loshan Rashi. Based on this Rashi's language, in Dibur HaMaschil, B'chol Kodesh. It says, B'chol Kodesh, Loi Siga. So Rashi says, L'Rabbis as ha-truma, that this includes the truma as itornit essen truma in the lamed gimel yom. That the woman, the Yeledes, is not permitted to eat truma during the 33 days. Lifi, Rashi explains, why can't she eat truma if she's tired after this? No. Shezu tvulas yom oruch. She's toivult, but there's a long day. A long day meaning 33 days is one long day. Shetovlo l'soif shiva shah. She immerses herself at the end of Shiva. But ve'ein shimsha ma'iriv l'tahara. But the sun does not set to make her toher, so that she can eat truma, it doesn't happen after the 8th day, the 9th day, or the 15th, 6th day. No, has to wait 33 days. The shemesh ma'il tara achki sachama shel yom arboim, until the sunset of the 40th day. Now Rashi adds, Shalamochar toves kaporas tumos tarosa. Then the next day, on the morrow, after the nighttime, in the morrow, she will bring the kaporas tarosa. So question is, why did I have to bring this down about bringing the kapora? Why do we have to emphasize it here that the next day, yeah, that's going to happen. She's going to bring the kapora taros, but we were talking about the Harav Shemesh that takes place on the 40th day. So on the 40th day, she can eat the truma. Why bring in when she can eat kodesh over in Rashi? Nor damit made Rashi zu sagen, but Rashi is intended, what Rashi is trying to tell you here. As kishem v'legab achilas kochim lachri made loish Torah. Just like eating kochim after the days of Tara have filled. She has to eat kochim, still has to wait. Eides bring the korban. Is doch nor was der chiv var korban. It's only because there is an obligation to bring a korban. So before you bring the korban, it's the korban that doesn't allow halti rob for achilas kochim. That stops her from eating kochim is because there's something else still to do before eating kochim. Aber she's not tome, she's not tome. The Rashi wants to imply this over here too. Al derech ze ezer benegel achilas truma the lamed gimel yom. Likewise, it's also about eating truma during the 33 days. Ados is not the farvas is tome. This is not because she's tome. Nor tzulib then was the chiv kaporas taharosa halted up. It's only because the obligation of the chiv of Torah halted up. It's just that she has to bring a kapara, and that prevents her when the lost nicht at the head of shemesh and the friedike tag, and it doesn't allow for the sunset of the previous day, fardem harav shemesh yom harboim, before zomatizan lachilas truma, doesn't allow her to eating the truma. So it's not about truma, but the obligation that she needs to bring the ktara. She must wait till the nighttime of the day of the next day that she'll bring the korban. It's also the korban. So it's basically the korban that she's obligated that doesn't allow for her to become allowed to eat truma. But for truma, it's after sunset. And for kachim, it's the actual bringing of the korban. Und das ist der Tamachiluk zwischen Loshen Rashi b'Pirusha LaTorah and Loshen Hashas. This is the difference. Rashi says Kruya Tmeya, and the Gemara says she is Tameh. Like Pirush Rashi ala Torah Pshuta Shel Mikra. According to Rashi on the Torah, which is a simple meaning of the verse, Kenmen by Ledes Mechuseres Kippurim. So when a woman who gave birth and she still doesn't have her atonement needs Zogin dem Loshen Tmeya. We can't say that before she's Tmeya. But even before Farn Harav Shemesh V'Marboim, even before the setting of the sun of the 40th day, immediately after the 7th day, is Shabir Giveni Meter Shalom. She already had the clean, she's already Tahir. After 7 days, after 14 days, can't say that she's still Tahir. That's why Rashi says Kruya Tmeya. Doesn't say that she's Tameh. Mashenkin Lishitza Gemara, as opposed to according to the view of the Gemara, Zayin the Lamed Gibel Yomim Ba'ir Yimei Tuma. The 33 days by the woman are days of Tuma. Oich Benegei Truma. Also as it goes to Truma. Yimei Toyar are only that she can stay with her husband, but not Truma, not according to the Gemara. Un Eider ze bringt, so before that she's Tomei the 33 days as far as Tuma goes, and before bringing the carbon, she's Tomei for as far as Kachim goes. When Eid is bring Kaparosa, Hitmeya Benegay Lekoidish Migdosh. And before she brings the actual Kapara, she's still Tomei as it relates to eating Kachim and entering to the Migdosh or serving in the Migdosh. Okay, so Rashi can't say Tmeya that Rebbe answers because, according to Rashi, she's not Tomei. So what does it mean that she's called Tmeya? Still, the pasuk says the Tohara, meaning that she's Kriya Tmeya before. What does this Kriya Tmeya mean? We have to understand then on the other side. Bald as Leut Rashi is the Tumas Leiden Nifki geworden, since that according to Rashi, the tomb of birth has been removed as soon as this 7 days and 14 days were up. Is doch levizoich nit masim loshon Rashi. So what does Rashi mean? This doesn't fit Rashi's language. Miklal sha'at kan kruya tmeya. Why is she called tmeya? She's tired. But Rashi had gedarf zog now derech loshon Rambam. Rashi should have said similar to the Rambam's language. Miklal sh'lenigmar tarosa, that it's not completed to kiyetzabai. Not completed is not the entire, but not to say that she's tmei kruya tmeya. So either way, Rashi learn. If Rashi learns that those vazihot nochachiv korban, the fact that she still has an obligation of a korban, is ma'akivir tara, that holds back the tara, which means she can't really become clean as long as it's bringing the korban she didn't bring the korban. So then she should be tmeya. Those hay says vert nit tahara bepoil, that there cannot be the actual tahara fully without the korban. Is doch nit nor was kriya tmeya. Then she's not only called tmeya nor she's tmeya bepoil. She's actually tmeya. But on Eidme soll sagen lidach. But if on the other hand you're going to say as the tumah is nifki geworden, that it's been as the Rebbe's been saying the whole time. Und das, was sie tun, nicht essen Kochim. And why can't you eat Kochim? Is on Isur Tzedodi. It's a side id because she didn't bring her korban, the kapora. Is es noch nicht kennen from Kruya to Meya? Why are we calling her Tomei? Not on Isur, lechel b'Kochim, busy bring them korban. That would be like the Rambam. There is a prohibition to eat the Kochim until she brings the korban because Lenigma Tarosa. There's still a process over here. But what is this Kruya to Meya? She's either Tomei or not Tomei. So the funis move on. So from this you understand as lepshuta shel mikra, that in the simple meaning of the pasuk is the gather from mechusa kippurim by yeledes of adrit neif. The definition of mechusa kippurim is a third way. The tumas leide is nifke geworden gleich nach the shivas yom. The tumas leide has been removed immediately of 7 days. Rashi says you may teurish, as we've been saying. Und die später dicke Tag seine Meteor Shalom. What follows the 7 days or the 14 days? Und der Rieber kann man auf ihr nicht sagen, she eat male. Can't say that she's male. Aber leidoch is der Tam, was is also level bekotchim. The reason why she's prohibited to eat kotchim
live from stadium.
Biz she is
years ago, Severino and Shea Whitcomb tied
aber leidoch
in all the minor league baseballs.
But leidoch is der Tam, was is also lechel bekotchim. Wie bringt dem Korban is nicht der Fall, was darf zu kommentaren. So she can't eat kochim is not because she needs to be more toher. Salidea korban. Nor zu libabdin miyuchad by yeledes. There's a special locha by yeledes. We don't know. There's no extra tara. It's all clear, but there's a special locha. As a feeling nogdem with the tumah is finira vek, even though she's not tomei, Prableit noch the Shem Tuma. Somehow there's a name of Tuma still there. Kruya Tmeya, she's called Tmeya. Busy bring them korban kaparos until she bring the korban for her atonement. There's a new definition called the tome because of the tuma that she had before is still she's called tome. Und das sagt Rashi Madgish, and this is what Rashi says, and he emphasizes Mishano Madgish. He changes and he emphasizes v'tohara miklal she'at kan up till here he kruya tmeya. She is called up till here. She has a called meya. Nit being gemara miklal she'it meya. Not the gemara that she is tmeya because she's not tmeya. But Rashi says Aleph kruya, she is blois kruya tmeya, that she's called tmeya. Base abados is a hemshach from friya. It's sort of a continuation from before. That before from friya at kan he kruya tmeya up till this point. Until she brings the korban, she's called a tmeya. Up till here, when we say up till here, means it's a follow-up from before, but it's not tmeya, only kriya tmeya. But what does this all mean? What does it mean? Where does Rashi know this? That she is only that it's a hemshech and she's called tome, but she's not actually tome, like the Gemara says. Yeah, I mean the Rebbe said before because he made toyer shalom, but here we're saying that there's a new chiddush of kruya tmeya. The Rebbe points out there's two times in the pasuk it says v'taharom im koyre, and it also says the last pasuk it says v'tahiro. The drasha the Rebbe is going to point out of that we learn out in the Gemara is from the last pasuk v'tahiro. But here it's the pasuk v'tahara mim koyre. Over there, the last pasuk is v'tahira. Here it's v'tahara mim koyre. The Rebbe wants to say that there's a special emphasis that the tahara is mim koyre, that it has a connection to the Bekorto. The hechrech of them in Pshute Shel Mikro. What is the evidence, the proof, what forces us to say this in the simple meaning, this new definition of Kruya Tmeya? Yesh Shloimar, we can say that Ninmas in Pirush Rashi. This is hinted in Rashi, Durch Noch Hashimi from Gemara, by pointing out another change that Rashi is different than the Gemara. In Gemara steht die Drosche Miklal Shehi Tmeya, that from here we know that she's from Wort V'tohera Shebesima Parsha, on the word V'tohera, which is in the end of the Parsha. Last word V'tohera. V'chiper Allah HaKoyin V'tohera. Koyin V'tohera Shul Kamta. But Rashi sagt es from Friedrich Pasuk, but Rashi does it on the previous Pasuk. V'krivoi lifnei Hashem, v'chiper aleha, bringing the korban. The Gemara gives another option for another korban, and then Pasuk ends over there if she can't afford it. And the Gemara gives, and then it says v'chiper aleha kovitayero. But before it says, by the first korban it says v'krivoi lifnei Hashem. That's the pasuk that Rashi brings down. As Rashi learned Miklal Sha'at Kan Hikriyat Meya, since Rashi learns that up till here she is called Tome, as though is Oich Frier Nit Given came Tuma. That also previously there wasn't really Tuma, nor Blois Hashem Tuma, which is called the Tuma. Weil doch mehr gepasst zu bringen die Drosche auf ein Wort V'tohera Shebesima Parsha. V'tohera hei Rishona Tzruya. v'tohira instead of v'toharo, which is so Rashi should have brought this drasha on the pasuk v'tohira shebesima parsha. It's in the end of the parsha. V'tzubrengen asay from word v'tohara hey bepasuk v'tohara mimkoir domel was is madgish the peulas hatara mituma. Tahara means that the act of, and he will, there will be a cleansing instead of, and she will be pure. So Rashi should have brought down his drasha on the Tahira, and saying that now Rashi should have brought it. Should have brought down the Tahira, not on the Tahara. Because we're talking about, did it accomplish, according to Rashi, did not accomplish until now. There was just a shame tumor. Nor bedibir in them, the explanation is lulei dem posik v'tahara mimkur demeho. The first one, the v'tahara with the pasach, what me gelernt as der isur lechel bekochim is klal mit verbunden mit tumor. We would say that the prohibition eating kochim is not connected to tumor. We would think this is just an act, nor this is an isur tzedodi. There's a side prohibition. Was is mitzad dem was ihr felt noch der peulas hakorban, that the reed is still lacking the act of the korban. So we would say that it's nothing to do with the previous tumah, the isur lechel bekochim that she has. Why can't she eat kochim? Because we need a korban, but it's nothing to do to the previous tumah. Mibald over the pasuk is medayik. The tahara mimkur dameo. The Torah says that the tahara will clean her from mimkur dameo. It's not just a tahara. Kommt ois, and the tahara was felt is nit blois. The lacking that she's missing, weil sie hat noch nit gebracht dem korban. She didn't bring the korban. Because the words mimkur dameo are mentioned in the tahara. Nor weil es ist noch verblieben tuma mimkur dameo. She's still mimkur dameo. But we just said before, you made toyar shalom, that she was already clean. How could we say the tahara mimkur dameo when she'd already, the tahara took place a long time ago? So that's the compromise of, we call it till now. Wie stimmt das damit, was der Pasuk sagt? How does this fit with the pasuk saying, "Ashoin the lamed gimel yomim"? Zayni mei Torah. Already the 33 days are already day of cleanliness. Muzman zogen. So we have to say, as beklal, sha'at kami kruya tmeya. Up till now, she's still called tmeya. We don't know exactly what it means. We'll have to wait to the next ice. But we know there's a new definition here. We have a contradiction. That's Rashi's proof here. We know it's Yimei Toyar, meaning that she's already the Taharas before. We know that the Korban, since Rashi brings down Tahara, Mimkoir, Vitara, Mimkoir Domeo, that there's a certain Tahara that it happens from the Mimkoir Domeo. But how could it be a Tahara Mimkoir Domeo if she's Toyer? I mean, there's a Shem Tuma call. Muzman Zogan, as Miklal Shat Kam, Ikruya Tmei, that it's called Tmei. Afal Pi was the Tumei Shenifke geworden, even though the Tumah is already taken away, but still is aber der Shem Tumah noch geblieben. The name Tumah remained. Ad Kan Ikruya, that she's still called. Miklal Shat Kan Ikruya Tmei. So basically, because on one hand the pasuk says you may toyhar, you may call you sheishleshim yotevish you may taros, so they're really tar, and the pasuk still calls it v'tohara mimker dameo, meaning that there is a connection of Tara mimker dameo. That's what Rashi says it to point out. There is some Tara that tells Rashi that it's not Tome Nifka the Tuma, but the shame Tuma still remains, and that goes away when she brings the korban, the kapara, and she can eat the korban. So what is this inyan of Tara? And what remains still? And Mechlal, why is the Rashi have to tell us this? Why is it important to know? As bleibt noch aber nicht musbar. It's still not understood. Aleph. Rashi is doch nicht kein Sefer von Time Halachas. Rashi is not a Sefer, a book that gives you reasons for Halachas. My nafkemine bavonas pshuta mikro zu sagen. What difference does it make trying to understand the simple meaning of the pasuk to say, as the tamo isur lechel bekochim is that why can't you eat the kochim is while ad kan he created meya, because till now she's called to meya. Why does it actually have to tell us that? That's why there's an issue to eat bekochim. And base and number two, we bald the tuma from the year decision if geworden, since the tuma has already been taken away, it expired after 7 or 8, 14 days. Why should the name tumor still remain until she brings the korban? Why didn't it accomplish the whole thing? Okay. So the Rebbe says that we don't find in Rashi an explanation why do she needs an atonement b'chlal. But when das verstehen behagdi matmiya, will understand this by introducing the question first. Shengeret kam upon me, we already spoken many times, as Rashi b'pirusha la Torah verantwortet alle shaylas. Rashi and his commentary on the Torah answers all questions. Verstellen sich im Pshute shel Mikra, which are in the simple meaning of the pasuk. Pavos gefindt men nit. Why don't we find? As Rashi is on mevayer sein dem tam, for Rashi to explain the reason, was a yeledes da bringen a chatos the kapora, that a yeledes needs to bring a chatos for atonement. Why don't we find this? What sin? Was for a chet is ibagangen? What kind of a sin did had she transgressed? As a result of a kapora, that she needs a kapora. Why are we atoning for her? Und das ist a shaila. Was for the tatirutz im Pshuta Shemikra? It's a question that remains, expect a reason, simple meaning of the pasuk. Wir fragen Taka kamen v'kamen v'farshat Torah, as many and many of the commentators in the Torah ask, why? What kind of atonement? Noch mehr gefindt in Pirish Rashi Liel. Rashi addresses why is there atonement by the korban oila. As Rashi bavoron by korban oila. State, the pasuk says by the korban oila, v'nirtza loyla chaper alav, will rule of peace for him to atone for him. Is Rashi mefarish? Rashi explains, al ma'amaratzaloi, what is it appeasing for him? Al esav alav chulu. Rashi gives you the ananesa and alav shenitiklas. There's when you need a carbon, that's when an oil is mechaper. Upashut. Alav shem b'mais, I think Rashi says there. But whatever the case is, you have a kapore. Rashi is bothered if it says nirtzolei lechaper alav. Atonement means there has to be some sort of a kapore there. So Rashi would definitely have a problem. Why is the woman bringing a kapore? It's obvious that we can't say as Rashi falosach from being in Gemara. The Rashi relies on the explanation that the Gemara says. Ados is their far. The reason is was b'sho shekaras isho leilit. The Gemara gives a reason when a woman kneels to give birth. Confesses when she jumps and she makes a swear she's not going to have children. This and that. So, and that's why that's a sin. She needs an atonement for that. I can't say that. Rashi doesn't. The child who learns Rashi doesn't know what the Gemara says. Befrat, as there is a safil nit baramas, Rashi is not even hinting to it. Musman zogen. So we have to say, as the Ben Chomesh lemikra versteht es ma'atzmoi leitrutshel shemikra, leitrutshel shemikra, that the 5-year-old understands it on his own according to the simple meaning of the verse. And Bosarach Gileran that he already learned, kid will come on. So we have to say that he knows that. So the Rebbe was going to explain why is the woman bringing a kaporim? And Rashi himself has to explain why when the pasuk says nirtzule ba'oila, and we can't give the Gemara's answer. There has to be some answer, which once we'll understand that this will answer the two questions that the Rebbe asked in the beginning of the Ois. What does Rashi have to tell this to us at all? And also the whole thing, how why is it osur? Because that is kriyat me'ah till now. And what is the meaning? Why should she still remain tamei? We had a proof from the pasuk, but what does it mean kriyat me'ah? But now we'll explain this whole idea, what is the sin over here, as the Rebbe will explain in the next ois, it's associated with the Chet Tzadas. Ois hey. Es bleibt noch aber nicht musbar. What we still don't understand, sorry, we're up to actually Vav. So, because it's such a strong question, why Rashi doesn't address why you need a kapora, we have to say that the child knows on his own. Rashi already told it to him before. Vav. B'shas melerent isha ki sazri v'yoldo gomer. V'toma, and she'll become tomei, gomer kimei nidas devoiso, as the days of the flow of a nida, as the dinim of the nida associated with the birth, parshas yoledes, which is the portion of yoledes, der montas gleich von siruf. This reminds us immediately on the combination von isha, leida v'tzar, a woman, birth and pain. This is what it is. Which came als einish of achet, which came for a punishment for a sin. In Parshas Bereishis, what the Eibishter hat gesagt haben, noch ihr chet be'etz hadas, in the portion of Bereishis when Hashem told Chava, after she sinned in the Eitz Hadas, giving to Adam from the Eitz Hadas, so the Eibishter told her, El ha'isha Omar, Hashem said to the woman, Harbo arbe yitzveinech ve'erenech ve'erenech. I will increase a lot your pain, your pregnancy, be'etzev till the boning. With etzev, with sadness, you will, with the pain, you will give birth to children. Jeder leida welcher kommt als atitzoe von heroin. Every birth that comes as a result of pregnancy, vatahar vatelet, that she got pregnant and she gave birth. So is an oifun. It will always be von its veinech v'hoirenech. There will be pain, tsar ha'ibur. There will always be pain associated with pregnancy. Be'etzev till the boning. That's the pregnancy, and then the birth will also come with pain. Tsar haleda. There's tsar ha'ibur and tsar haleda. So every time we have this pain, hot nizich hachelik meha'oinish from chet etzadas as part of the punishment for the sin of the etzadas. ועל פי זה מובן der Tam, הטומאה, von הילדס. And that's what we understand the reason for a tumor from a woman giving birth, afilu b'loy dam, even without blood. Normally, nidas, the tumor is associated with dam, but there's a chiddush by birth. Even if the woman will give birth and there's no dam, she would still be tomei, im pshuta shel mikra. Azoivi leda is bitzar leda al sateitzof v'chetei tzadas. Just as giving birth with pain is a result of the sin of Eitz Hadas, Azoy Eichizes may be Tuma. So for the same reason, it brings Tuma. Mizeiz, move on. So from this we understand, Favosa Yeledes da bringen a kormachatus the kaparos. So from this we understand why a woman giving birth needs to bring a kormachatus for atonement. Vibald as bechol leida by yeder isha, since by every birth, by every woman, is dofun chet eitz hadas, is part of it is from this in eitz hadas. Darvzi the roif bringen a kapora. That's why she needs an atonement. So associating the birth now to the sin of the eitz hadas gives us an explanation why there needs to be always tuma even without dam, because it's associated to the sin. And because it's associated to the sin, we need a kapara all the time. Al derech, Rashi hat schon früher mefarisch gewesen, benegeha, dem cheta egel, ubiyem pog de pakadati. So similar Rashi is already explained earlier with regards to the sin of the egel, that on the day that I remember, which means, Tomit kshe'erv ked aleim avinu yisayim, all the time, whenever I will remember them for their sins, so I will also remember a little bit of this sin. Imsharaven is with the other sins. So when the Eibishter remembers them for a sin that they did, he'll also add to it from the Cheta Egel. Ein Puron is Baal Yisrael, Shein Boktzas me Puron of an Egel. There is no punishment that comes for the Jewish people, doesn't have a little bit of the punishment of the Egel. So similarly, every time there's a birth, and that is a pakaditi, that's sort of a reminder of the Eitz Hadas, and there's a pain over there, which is the punishment. So that punishment reminds us and associates with the Eitz Hadas, which needs a kapara. So now we'll understand the question that the Rebbe asked earlier in Hey, why does Rashi need to explain this? Bechlal? Zayin, leidambir in tumas leida v'toich musbar. So another thing the Rebbe answers now, that according to Rashi's explanation in tumas leida, so Rashi explains when Rashi, by the tumah of birth, v'toich masbis Rashi is mefarish of a word v'ikrivoy. It talks that he brings the carbon and then v'tahara mimkar dameu. Which carbon? Rashi says mishu bo lechaper bo yatahara toli. That we're talking about the korban chatos that the woman brings. That is the tahara. That's what it hinges on. Without that, you can't have the tahara. So it's the korban that is coming lechaper. As the tahara from the haisha yeledus is tolui dafki in them korban chatos. That's the chatos she brings. Was kommt lechaper, not in the oilo, not in the oilo. Why is that, Taka? That's what the pasuk says. V'ikri voi. Only one of them you have to bring, which is the chatos that you have to bring in order to get the atonement. Why does the Torah? Why only the chatos? But now we understand. Weil the tuma kum durch an inyan was darf haben kapore, because the tuma comes through an aspect that needs kapore, through the chaytet tzadas. Is the ribe, the tare, der tuma verbunden der mit. That's why the purity of this tumah is associated mit was bringt ir kapora. So when do you become toyer from this tumah that was brought about the Eitz Hadas? It comes associated the meat was bringt ir kapora. That once you bring the kapora. So that's why v'hikrivoi, it's the korban that brings the kapora, brings about the tahara. V'api anal yuvan v'yumtak, based on the above, it will be understood and very sweet, the hemshech in Pirush Rashi, the flow in Rashi. Was gleich noch sein Pirush hanaloi v'hikrivoi, immediately after he says v'hikrivoi. In welchen is madgish as the tahara von a yeledis is verbunden mit ihr kapor, in which he emphasizes that the purity of the woman giving birth is associated with her atonement. Vita, that it's vikrivoi, that it's the kapora one, that brings her to Tara, is a mamshich, Vitara miklal, Sha'at Khan, he kruyot meyo, as Rashi we were discussing the whole time, that up till here, she is called at meya. Noch dem vimen veis, after we know as the tumor from the Yeledes is verbunden, that the tumor from the woman giving birth is associated, is tied with Mechet Eitzadas, with the sin of Eitzadas, und der Liber is ir Tahare verbunden mit ir Kapora. That's why her purity is tied, connected to her atonement, to her kapora. Is verstandig as ad kan kriyat meya, that till here she's still called Tmeya because the kapora is not there yet. I feel noch dem wie der Tum ist von ihr nicht geworden, even after the Tum has been taken away, has expired from her, over calls maziot noch nicht ihr kapora. But as long as there's no kapora, she's noch als kruya Tmeya, she's still kruya Tmeya, because it's all connected to the kapora. The kaporosoi is a kapora for the tuma, and we need to wait for that in order to take away the whole even cold tuma. The meat is verstandig l'meinaf gemina. So now we understand the question that the Rebbe asked in is, hey, why why do we need to know this, that up till here she was krot meir? The Rebbe asked, that there is achilles kochim, weil gewen bloß mit zadem, was ihr felt noch gemar tahara. Had the prohibition of eating kochim just been because she's not been completed the tahara, similar to what the Rambam says, hat an Ort, as die Ische wird sich nicht misdare sein zu bringen ihr Korben, gedei zu kennen essen kochim. So there could be room that she's not going to be quick to bring her korban to eat kochim. Because, okay, so she's not going to eat kochim. Men gefindet achiv of Yisrael zu sein in a matzah von Tahara, we don't find the yid to be, it needs to be in a condition of Tahara with they kennen essen kochim in order to eat kochim. So what's going to push her to bring the korban? Side lifnei regel was chayvot and taras regel, unless we're talking before Yom Tov, when a person has to clean himself before by Yom Tov. Bald aber ados was kruye tmeya bis jetzt is verbunden damit, was es felt bei ihr kapora, but since that she is called tmeya till now is associated with the fact that she was lacking kapora, so now you have to get kapora. Is the move on as he darf sich misdar sein kichol afshor niskaber, that she has to quickly, as much as possible, to be atoned for because it's associated. So that's why the pasuk, Rashi explains the pasuk v'chiper that it should take place very soon. That because at kani kriyat meya. And kriyat meya because, as Rashi says, because it's associated with the chet sadas. as the Rebbe explained. And that means that we have to do it as quickly as possible. Ches. Chazal Zogen, our sage of blessed memories say, as the Rebbe Mashueso Eimer Yisrael Asis, but Hashem, he tells you to do. He's the fun verstandig. So with this we understand, the same with the Eberster will. Just as Hashem wants, as Eden soll sein nicht sein, a feeling a matze from Kruya Bilvad. The Eden should not even be called Tmeya. Und soll bringen a korban le kapora, and they should bring a korban for atonement. Also euch führt sich der Eberster mit ihnen. So the Eberster also conducts himself that way with the Eden. As wenn man is begolus und Eden seine Kruye Tmeya, when you're in Golus and Yidden are called Tmeya, Ukapsak din Rambam, as the Rambam rules, as Yeder Id, every Yid, B'chol Mokim, B'chol Zman, every time, every place, and every time, is it Tzoyne about Torah Semes, is his will. And this is what the Torah said, the true Torah. That means that it's true. He really wants Ton Noratz Hashem. All what he wants to do is Hashem's will. If sometimes he does different than what Hashem wants, he says, Nor mitzad einus, it's only because he's forced. Especially after this terrible, scary decrees and holocausts, the woes of the Chevli Mashiach, was Eden sein schon durchgegangen, then the Yidden have already gone through. Especially in our last generation. So we in our Golus, our Tome, called Tome. So the Eibishter very quickly takes us out. Nem der Eibishter reached from the Eden, from the Madim and the Matzav, from Kriyat Meya. He takes us out from the situation, the condition which we're called Tome. V'chaz v'sholem zu sagen. God forbid to say, as imitzer or that epis kenemaka sein, that someone or something can stop Hashem. It comes with the greatest lasting very quickly. Sometimes I think the Rebbe is talking about people critical of the Yidden and things like that, trying to say Mashiach does not deserve to come. God forbid. Will nor all what Hashem wants is as by Yidden soll sein die Tshuka, that the Yidden should have that yearning. If I raise game bizrizes me out, go out very quickly, immediately. B'l'shein Rambam from Golus, in the Rambam's language from exile, from the Matzah from Kriya Tmeya, from the condition which they're called Tamei, on Kumen Ligmar Taharoson Kaparoson, to reach to the complete Tara. They're just called Tamei, they're not really Tamei, but they're called Tara, but to complete the Tara Kaparoson. Und es kommt die Geula, and the redemption comes in an Eifon Aruim Anane Shemayim, that will go fly with the clouds of the heaven, of the sky. Achisheno. Quickly in Achisheno, within Achisheno, quicker within the quickly, Miyad Mamish, immediately Mamish, Bagola Didan, very soon. Now, this is Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Tazria, Tavshin Mem Aleph.